want to again welcome us to this class, this all-important class. For those that were in the last class, the session we discussed the role, the scope. First of all, we defined agricultural extension. We also were able to look at the scope of agricultural extension. In that last class, we looked at research institutes. Recall there were certain ideas that came up, certain new concepts that you heard in the last class, like small plot adoption technique, the SPAT. You heard the on-farm adaptive research, the offer. You heard us mention innovations. You heard us mention the role of research institutes. These things we want to appeal that students should not forget. Please do not forget. For this session, we want to move a little bit away from agricultural extension to look at another branch of what we are discussing. And this time around, we want to discuss rural sociology. Why do we want to discuss rural sociology? Why would extension go hand in hand with rural sociology? The question is simple. The answer is straight. Extension deals with issues relating to the farm families. These farm families are living in rural areas. If extension must impact on their lives, then the social interaction that go on within the place where they found themselves must be factored in. These social interactions may even go as far as considering the changes in these social interactions. So at the end of this class, we expect that you should all be able to define and understand the scope of rural sociology, understand rural sociology itself as a concept, and then know the importance. Beyond knowing it, you should be able to freely and comfortably discuss the importance of rural sociology to anyone who may care to know. Of course, when you hear rural sociology, the first thing that would come to mind is one, rural, and then sociology. Before we delve deeper into rural, let's discuss sociology. Sociology is simply the study of the social life, study of the social changes, study of the social causes, and then the consequences of human behavior uh, within the society. So that term is just simply that as a concept, sociology is a kind of an abstract idea that is corresponding to various themes and realities in the society. There used to be several branches of sociology because so long as you have more than one person in a place, you can be very sure that there will be social interaction. There would be social dynamics. So it is the study of this social interaction and social dynamics that we call sociology. Of course, you may have heard about medical sociology, you may have heard about industrial sociology, and various other organizational sociology. Now, when this study of social dynamics and social interaction, social behavior, of human behavior in the society, when it is now focusing on the rural areas, areas that are less developed, far from the city centers, people living there, having their main occupation as agriculture. By the time sociology now focuses on these people, we are now talking about rural sociology. So I think by this definition, everyone in class, you can now talk to anyone who would ask you what sociology is and then what rural sociology is. You can give them a good idea of that we should know. Maybe by so let you know that the field of rural sociology has to do with the association among people living or dependent upon agriculture. This group is the description and analysis of progress of various groups as they exist in the rural environment. You look at it, you see that rural sociology is the broadest of all the sociology you may think of because it studies varieties of characters and characteristics in the rural areas. If you have any question or anywhere that you seek clarification, please you can drop your comment in the comment box. When we meet physically, you can make your presentation. But then it studies the nature and primary components from the structural and functional stance. Rural social life compasses the behavioral patterns, the web of relationship, the social interactions, the standard of living, and socioeconomic conditions of rural people. Therefore, the scope of rural sociology expands where the boundary of the rural society is expanded. So you've seen these details here. As a field of study, it's about association among people living or dependent on agriculture, this human behavior in rural environments. As a field of study, it describes and analyzes progress of various groups as they exist in the rural environment. So this is what rural sociology is all about. This is what rural sociology is all about. Rural sociology focuses on the study uh, of the nature and primary components of the rural society from the structural and functional stance. Rural sociology looks at the scope of life in the rural areas and expands even beyond that. Now, the scope of rural sociology is so wide that it may give us some time. We'll be having a different session on this subsequently. But as we go ahead, we would want to take some and discuss the importance of rural sociology. Later, we'll get back to the scope. Let's now look at the importance of rural sociology. Of course, we have established that agricultural production is basically a rural-based activity. So the understanding of the social life of the rural people will ensure that optimal program implementation is secured in the agricultural sector. Rural sociology is an important field of study that will assist in the following areas. We expect that rural sociology will assist in the following areas. One, in the scientific and systematic study of rural life. We do not want to base our knowledge of the rural people based on mere hearsay or based on mere perception. So, because we will need to have a scientific and systematic study of what they do so that we can have qualitative and quantitative outcome that will influence policies. Rural sociology would come in. Rural sociology is important if we must understand the structure, the functions and objectives, tendencies of development of the rural society. If we do these things without the understanding that is needed, We will be fighting with the rural people. Then, of course, we know that the development of the rural communities also has set out rules, regulations, and legislations. I mean laws. We mean laws here. So rural sociology also comes in to discover the laws of the development of the rural society. What laws govern the development of the rural society? Rural sociology will go deep into that. Then, part of what we do in rural sociology is this responsibility to help in the planning for the construction, for the reconstruction, in fact, of the social life of the rural people. So, rural sociology help in the task of planning for the reconstruction of the social life of the rural people. What are those areas? What are those essentials for a reconstructed rural life? Rural sociology is very much important in understanding this. Also, rural sociology reveals the challenges and characteristics of the people living in rural areas, the challenges they go through, the problems they go through in the rural areas. Rural sociology also goes a very long way in revealing, in knowing these challenges and their characteristics. For the economic growth of many development nations, it will be difficult to successfully ensure that developing nations grow economically if we don't sustain the study of the rural people. Now, this is clear. Of course, you know that most of the resources needed for development, even among developed nations, not just developing nations, even among developed nations, most of the resources needed for development come from the rural areas. So, if these resources must be utilized in a sustainable manner without endangering the lives of the rural people, then it's important that their life be studied. Then, as students, this course will introduce you to certain sociological concepts and then the application of these sociological concepts. There may be certain sociological concepts that you may think you're familiar with and that you know so well, but then this course will help to um, expose you to them, social norms, social values, morals, folkways, a lot of them. This course will help to bring them closer to you. And then for programs, rural development programs, there is the need for templates. And then in order to provide a template for the incubation of these programs, rural sociology would also be necessary. Then we need to also know that in the midst of whatever that is being done for the rural community, there would be the need to harness feedback. There will be the need to harness feedback. Now, rural sociology comes in to ensure, first of all, that there is effective communication with the rural people. Communication here, we are talking about the transfer of information, ideas, concepts, messages from a sender, that's the source, then to the receiver. Now, that first forward, the feed forward, which means the movement from the sender to the receiver. Rural sociology is there to make sure that it's seamless among rural people. Now, there is the feed backward, which is this message that comes from the receiver to the sender this time around. That's what we call the feedback. Now, it's also the rural sociology that will be there to ensure that the feedback to government and then to non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and other development agencies that are interested in the rural life, that they get feedbacks that are not interrupted by one noise or the other. Rural sociology also provides a beginning professional the required training for a future career as a rural sociologist. Of course, a lot of persons are impacting on the society. A lot of persons are doing one thing or the other in the rural areas, in the sociological area, and then they acquire this training through rural sociology. Then we also need to highlight, please, that rural sociology forms the basis for the scientific study and assessment of the rural society. So having this, we can now go about with a clear understanding of the importance of rural sociology. We want to again thank you for your time. We will meet in the next class as we look at some of the elements, some of the scope, some of the areas in rural sociology that this study would venture in issues that touch the life of the rural people and their development. Thank you, and do have a blessed day.